I wanted to talk to you today about some considerations that you should take, or you could take if you want, when you're purchasing a vihuela. A vihuela is a very interesting instrument because naturally, of course, not only because it's for mariachi, just specifically for mariachi music, although it can be used for other genres too. But it can be it can be a little bit difficult to find depending on where you live. Many times you have to order them from Mexico, from instrument makers in Mexico, or sometimes there are some places, like if you live in Los Angeles, then there might be some places that also make their own brands of vihuelas. But for most of the time, most people, they don't have a vihuela maker in town. So these are some important considerations that you can think about before you purchase a vihuela, so that you can do, maybe this video can help you in part of your research, so that you can be happy with your instrument. The reason I wanted to make this video for a long time was because when I was growing up, a long time ago, when I was a little kid, I started learning vihuela, and in my first school, my grandpa bought me a vihuela, and that vihuela was, when I received it, I was so happy. But they kind of sold me a vihuela that was really high. The action was super high, so high that I couldn't do my chords, even a normal chord, like if you do your F or even an E flat. I couldn't do those chords because it was unnaturally high. Now there are different heights on the vihuela. I'm talking about the action, of course, the distance between your frets and the strings, because depending how high it is, you might need to press down with a lot of strength, and you don't want that because you want your fingers to be always agile. A good sign of a good vihuela or a guitar player is that their fingers are very, very agile and very quick, and you press only enough. So it's very important to keep an eye on your action. So the number one thing is that yes, there can be different heights of action. You can have some that are really low, some that are medium, some that are a little bit higher, but it shouldn't be unnaturally high. I'm talking about so high that you cannot even do those basic chords on the first 3 frets. So keep an eye on that, because you don't want to buy a vihuela usually if it's that high that you cannot press, even have a regular G or a D7 without being afraid of the other strings being so high that they're touching your other fingers. And that would be unnaturally high. That means that they didn't make the instrument correctly. Now, going all the way from the head here, it's important that you have good machinery. The machinery is going to help you tune your instrument and making sure that it doesn't come loose or it doesn't get untuned when you're performing, because there's vibration and sometimes these things will start rattling, and so even that will create a bad sound. So you want to make sure that there's no rattling at all, that is very nice and clean, that when you are going to purchase a vihuela, there's no rattling. You want to test all of them and tune your instrument back and forth to make sure that there's no spots that is going all of a sudden really fast, and sometimes with more friction or with less resistance. You want to make sure that it's always the same level of resistance on all your pegs, your tuning pegs. Now, most of the vihuelas nowadays, they come with this machinery. Some of the traditional ones, you can still order them with the wooden pegs, and those are different, of course, because those with the wooden pegs, most of the time they're going to be a little bit stiff. The more you tune them, the more you use your vihuela, the easier it will be to tune those. But in this case, for this particular video, I'm just focusing on what you're going to get most of the time, which is the regular machinery, the mechanical pegs, or I think that's what they call them, la maquinaria. So it's very important that you have a good quality one. They're not vibrating, rattling, they're not going sometimes soft, that all of them are the same. Not that some of them are a little bit different than the others, because believe me, these things will die, and if they die on you on a job, if they strip, then you will not be able to tune that string. And it's terrible, because then you have to change them all, and it's just a hassle. So you don't want to go through that. The next thing is, of course, we talked about the action. You want to make sure that your neck also is straight. I have purchased instruments that the neck is not even, it's going up or down, or you can tell that the wood is kind of curving, and those are brand new instruments. See, these instruments, they're usually made not by giant companies that are making hundreds of vihuelas per month. No, these are normally made by instrument makers that make maybe a few dozen per month, and that is on the large scale. Some of them, they only make a few per month. And so that's why it's very important that it's a high quality neck. You don't want the neck to be crooked, that right here you can play, but then your neck starts becoming wider or in a different shape or a different angle. You don't want any of that. That's a bad instrument. You want this to be, I'm not an instrument maker, but those are the basic things that you want to make sure that this is nice and straight, because that's where your frets are. You want to make sure that you can play. Talking about the neck, you want to make sure that that the neck is not too wide. Now, some of the more student instruments, this would be what we can call a professional vihuela. This is a Roberto Morales. There's some great vihuela makers nowadays, really high-end. I have tried Roberto Morales. I have tried some of the Vivar ones from Spain. I ordered 2 really special vihuelas. And so these are high-quality instruments. And what you will notice is that the neck is not too wide. You don't want it to be a huge neck. You want it to be kind of a thinner neck. That's a good sign of a vihuela. You may like, because of how big your hands are, you may want a bigger neck, but you want to make sure that you try the vihuela and then it's not too big, that you don't get something that is way too big, or that is the only option that there is with a vihuela maker. You want to make sure that they have different necks, but I prefer that vihuelas that have the thinner neck, so that you can hog your neck and you can do all your chords. Like I said, if you have a bigger hand, then of course I can understand, but in general you don't want the neck to be all wide and round and real difficult to play your chords with, because then you're not going to have agility, and it's going to be in grabbing on, because practically you're holding your vihuela with your hand here, and if your hand is taken, if a big portion of your palm is taken by the neck, then you don't have very much space, length on your fingers, right? So you want to make sure that it's not unnaturally high. Next thing, you want to check on the finishing of the frets, because the frets on a vihuela, they're not made out of metal. The frets on a vihuela, they're made out of plastic, and so they usually will burn the tip at the end. But it should be a well done, quality burn, because if they don't burn it correctly, then and they don't leave it nice and soft, then you can cut your hand. I've cut my hand with vihuelas, because as I'm doing glissandos and moving on the neck, they're very sharp. And I said, no, it's gonna be fine. But by the end of the night, I have like blood here on my hand because of sliding. And then it's really uncomfortable to have a cut on that part of your hand, because that's where you have your support for doing your chords. So you want to keep an eye on that. And I try to fix that vihuela. I try to sand it a little bit, and then the whole fret snapped. So, you don't want that. You want to make sure that you test it like this practically, because you want to make sure that it's not going to cut your fingers and that it's not too sharp, that the finish is good. The next thing, of course, as we go down, you want to make sure that if it has a protective plastic sheet to protect the la tapa, like they say, la tapa, la tapa, which is going to be the face of the vihuela. This board and this part of the wood, you want to make sure that is protected. And sometimes some vihuelas will come with it. Many of them nowadays, they come. But if they don't, then you want to see if they can put it for free, or maybe because it's very simple. And if they do it, then they will do it nice and clean and very quickly, so you don't have to worry about doing it yourself. But yeah, una mica. You want to make sure that it has the plastic so that it can protect la tapa de tu vihuela. This part of the wood, the front face of your vihuela. The next thing is going to make sure, check inside. Check that it has the proper reinforcement. Vihuelas have to have the proper reinforcement in the middle. You want to make sure, of course, that there's no other repairs, there's nothing, but that has a good reinforcement in the middle. Vihuelas they don't have as much reinforcements as a guitar. A guitar has more reinforcement, more parts that are given its strength. Even in the middle, they usually have a bar that is reinforcing also the neck, and that bar can be, help you adjust your action. So on a vihuela, you don't have any of those reinforcements. If you ever take a vihuela to get repaired to a guitar shop, they will tell you, you know what, this is a difficult instrument to fix because it doesn't have those reinforcements. And so the many times they don't want to touch it. Or if they do go in there and they try to repair it, for minor repairs. But once you get a lot of cracks and a lot of things, they will tell you, it's difficult and it's going to be expensive to repair. A at that point, maybe sometimes you may need to buy a new vihuela. But I'm saying, what I'm talking about the reinforcement is because you want to make sure that it's well built inside, that it's nice and clean, that there's no messy glue around, that the reinforcement down the middle is properly done. I've gotten vihuelas that there's no reinforcement in the middle, and then I've taken it back, and then they put it the wrong way. They put a reinforcement in a very bad way, and then they give it back to me, and then the glue is all over the place. And so some places they need to be able to finish the job. Those are the finishing touches. And that's another thing. You want to make sure that the finishing touches are well done, that they took good care of it. You don't want the paint or el barniz to be in different places. You want to make sure that at least it's finished well. It doesn't have to be like super, super pretty, because in a vihuela, the main thing is the sound, and we'll get to that, of course. But it's going to be very important that there's no messiness on the finishing touches, because one person, usually in vihuela shops, they will have a person assembling it and a group of people doing finishing touches, which is right here, your rosette, you're making sure the varnish, and barniz, doing all the finishing touches, the frets, if you want more frets, and making sure that they're in the right place, so when you press down the cord, that you're not sharp or flat. You don't want that. I've gotten vihuelas, actually. I've gotten some vihuelas from Spain that when I press here, my frets are off, especially the high ones, and that's because of my particular. I'm sorry, I'm touching here my microphone, but that's because I like having normally 9 frets. But whatever frets you're getting, making sure that they're not in the wrong place is going to be very important. So make sure that you test that you have your tuner, and that you test that whatever you're pressing, that is giving you the correct read for that note. So if you're supposed to have an F sharp, it should be an F sharp. It shouldn't be a G, or it shouldn't be like almost, maybe, let's say if you're pressing here for an F on your first fret, that should be right down the middle of when you're using your tuner. It should say F. That's the easiest one. This one should be all perfect. If they are like F, almost F sharp, like very close to F sharp, then that means that your fret is in the wrong place. So making sure that you have your frets in the right place. Now, going back, of course, to the finishing touches, that tells you how much care to put on the instrument. It is true that some instruments will be cheaper made than others because of the quality. There's instruments for students. Maybe they're going to be a lot cheaper. I know that you can get some vihuelas perhaps for $250 or cheaper. I'm talking about brand new vihuelas. This is not talking about like getting a vihuela on sale on OfferUp or somewhere that you can get a great deal. Now I'm talking about a brand new vihuela from a vihuela shop or from a vihuela maker. How much are you going to be paying? If you're going to pay $250, I would probably see if you can put a little bit more to get the vihuela that is around $450, because that's usually where you start seeing a lot of those more finishing parts well done. Sometimes, like I said, you don't want somebody that has compromised some part of some of these components that I'm telling you for the sake of price, because they're banking on the fact that students don't know. But you don't want your students, me as a teacher, I don't want my students to develop a bad habit, because then they have to unlearn the bad habit. So what would be a bad habit? A bad habit would be to press because their action is so unnaturally high that they have to press so hard that their fingers become all calloused, but super, super calloused, and they cannot switch chords smoothly because they have to press all the way down. Down like maybe even sometimes like half an inch, we're talking about, because I've had a vihuela like that. When my grandpa got my first vihuela, it was exactly like that. It was very, very unnaturally high. And unfortunately, a lot of the classmates around me, they used to make fun of me. They had better vihuelas, and they advanced more, and the teacher preferred them. And it's just things happen. This is not like the drama of my life. But I can tell you that if you have a proper vihuela, you can play better. and you don't want your student or anyone to suffer through those things for no reason, because there's no reason, as long as you keep an eye on these considerations. So you want to make sure that your vihuela has the right action. You want to make sure that your vihuela also has the right sound. Some vihuelas, they might have a more of a deeper sound. Some vihuelas might have a more higher pitch sound. That has to do with the wood. Different woods they yield different sounds. So just try it and see if you like it. Some people like a little bit more ronca, and that's what they call it, una vihuela más ronca. A deeper, maybe a more bassy sound, more full sound. I like vihuelas that are kind of a little bit more in the middle to the high range, because I like that really nice shiny sound. But that's just me. So there's many types. So make sure that you test the vihuela and that you like the sound of it. That's gonna really help you, so that when you take it home and you start practicing, or you practice in your school, that you're happy with the sound. So those would be my considerations. I would check the quality. I would check how much you're gonna spend. If you can spend maybe $4.50 or above, it will be better. You'll get a better quality vihuela. Also, don't get a vihuela that has metal frets. When I was growing up, there was a vihuela that my dad purchased, and I'm really thankful, but it had metal frets. So, that could give you a little trouble down the road, because when your vihuela starts levantándose un poquito, then you're stuck, because then your frets are off at that point, and they're really difficult, because then you have to change them. So, but yeah, those gonna be my considerations. I hope that you guys like this video, that you find it useful. If there's anything that you think I missed other than the sound, the quality, I think I covered everything that normally I keep an eye on when I'm gonna be buying a vihuela. Check on the sound. The sound is really important. It can have beautiful gold and different stones and all these beautiful things, beautiful designs on the neck. But you know what? If the sound is not there, it doesn't really matter how beautiful it is. So make sure that you try it, that you don't just order it, but that you have a chance to try it, or ask for videos. If the laudero, if the vihuela maker is far away, then check the reviews. Tell them exactly what you want, how you wanted the sound, specifically, because if the sound, like I said, if the sound is not there, it can be a real beautiful instrument, but you're not gonna enjoy playing it. And that's why we're learning music, so that we can enjoy it and we can share that enjoyment and that happiness with others. Thank you so much for your time. Hope that you guys enjoyed this talk, this quick conversation about my considerations when I purchase my vihuelas. Have a nice day. Thank you. There's one more thing that I forgot. I forgot to mention that you want to check before you buy a vihuela that is not full of varnish. Varnish is the finishing that they add to instruments. See this nice shine? That's what they add, so that it protects the wood against scratches. It gives it a very nice finishing touch. The problem is that if your vihuela, the front is full of it, then it's not gonna have the little holes that it needs on the wood to protrude the sound. You want to make sure that when you buy a vihuela, that it's a very thin layer. I mean, you'll be able to see the pores. Like on this vihuela, I can see the pores of the wood, especially in the front, because that's where the sound comes out. It's not just from the hole, but the whole instrument protrudes sound to the front cover. In the back, of course, it can have more of it, because it's holding sound from the back. The direction is towards the front. But I've had vihuelas that I have to sell because they just don't have very good sound. My maestro, my teacher, Victor Cárdenas El Pato, he was with Mariachi Vargas de Tecaytlan for 55 years. And he told me, one vihuelita is louder, you can hear the vihuela louder than 10 guitars, he told me. And so that's because the way that the vihuela is built, the way that the front cover should be built, should allow that much sound to the front. So next time that you're gonna buy a vihuela, just keep an eye on that it's not like perfectly covered, that you can actually see the pores. And you'll be able to see and hear that the vihuela is gonna have a really good sound. And you can compare different instruments. I just wanna save you some trouble, because I've had to sell many vihuelas, and expensive vihuelas. Like vihuelas that have been over $2,000. And I've had to sell those vihuelas because they don't have very good sound. They don't have as good sound as maybe even a cheaper vihuela that doesn't have as much varnish. So I hope that this helps you. It was just the one last thing that I wanted to do and add to my video before I publish this. Thank you so much. Hope that this video has helped you. And if you want to see more videos about vihuelas, let me know. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Bye.